Hi!
Hi!
Welcome to another Film Critters
Processes!
Point at Brew.
Hello.
I want to say it's been a minute, but I think it has actually not been a minute. I think we did one at the start of kind of at the start of this month, right?
It's been some time. I mean, it was kind of the first half of the month where we front loaded, or the first half of August, I should say, because today we're recording it on the last day of August, not to date ourselves, but yeah, we front loaded our content, but now we're back. We're talking about 2 more movies, watching yet more movies in quarantine, having the times of our lives.
This is truly the summer of endless summer.
520,000 days of summer.
We did actually get to see each other in person recently from across a yard on either end of a fire.
Yeah.
So that the fire would burn any germs that escaped.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. If you guys can plan out your socially distanced hangouts, try to be responsible. We were masked up. We had a bunch of friends around, and we were all trying to keep our 6 feet, doing the damn thing. It is possible. Just be fucking careful. Please be careful. Be safe.
Yeah, no, be smart about it, but don't let yourself go crazy in quarantine, because that will probably inevitably lead you to just being like, fuck it, I'll take all of the risk, rather than take measured risks, and then that way you get your stimulation. If you've been locked up as long as we have at this point, you probably don't really need a lot. A little bit goes a long way at this point.
Oh yeah. But live to fight another day. Don't go crazy in your yellow wallpaper situations. But yeah, like I said, we watched 2 movies. Also, I'm Baru.
I'm Jay Bearhat. This has been our quarantine update.
Oh boy. Yeah, my quarantine update is that I've been watching The Sopranos, and it's fucking great. I'm having a great time.
We've been talking about. God, we've been considering starting. My quarantine update is that I started watching Hannibal, and it's also been a great time.
Oh, Hannibal's great.
I'm becoming a normie in quarantine.
Yeah, we're about to start our TV review podcast. Just to have something to do. Whatever.
Which we're talking about. It's not tomorrow she dies. She dies tomorrow.
She dies just at some
discussing
point.
This. Yeah, she kicks it.
Yeah, she dies tomorrow. And then later on, we're going to talk about House of Hummingbird. I'll put a timestamp in for that. But yeah, she dies tomorrow. Jay, what did you think of She Dies Tomorrow?
So I have now actually seen it kind of twice. And I say kind of twice is because the first time I saw it was that there was a drive-in theater that was showing it. And it was like, oh, it's showing 2 recently released horror films. Like, I want to check that out. I would like to go to a drive-in theater. I haven't been to one of those in ages. And the other movie was Rental, which sucked. And then this one, I literally could not tell if it was if I liked it or not, because it was the first movie, and I spent probably half of the runtime trying to find an angle that I could lean in the back and watch the movie that didn't make my neck hurt.
Oh yeah, that's kind of the drive-in experience a little bit.
So we realized, okay, if we do this again next time, we got to bring chairs and then just put them outside next to the car. Because I saw a bunch of teens doing that, and I was like, those clever bastards. But I liked it when I saw it then, and then I went and saw. I rewatched it again recently, and I still don't really know how I feel about it. I kind of like it, but I kind of like it because it's extremely annoying.
Okay, that's interesting. How would you expound on that?
So the first time I saw it, and I rewatching it, I still feel this way. It feels like a full-length adaptation of a Tim and Eric Bedtime Stories bit.
Oh yeah, definitely.
and so it's like it's like a comedy horror. It's a horror film that there has like a lot of like jokes in it, and I would say like really like fairly well executed like delivery on a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so to me, it just has the problem of being a very like super overly indulgent film, like visually, because it's like there's a lot of just like very similar to something like Inland Empire, like kind of like just meandering moments in the film.
Sure.
Like just long stretches of just a character sitting in her living room on the floor, crying and looking at things, and then staring into flashing colored lights for like a minute while like weird sound is playing.
Right. Yeah.
And I kind of am like, okay, this is you just making like basically whatever the fuck you want with your movie. And I think it's a quality for women to do that.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I kinda hated it.
See, like that's why I say like I'm very torn on it, because it's like this is like a movie where it's like if the thumb was like it was on the scale in either direction, I would have absolutely hated this. I don't even know if I particularly enjoyed watching it, but it was like a movie I could watch and just be like, you're just like doing whatever the fuck you want, and like I kind of gotta respect that.
Yeah, I will say that like the performances were really good. They clearly developed the characters in a certain way where like it felt like the characters themselves were really well realized, and their interactions and stuff like that were technically interesting. That said, without like a very kind of thorough, like the script doesn't really have any like depth to it to me. Because it's just a bunch of people kind of sitting around talking about how they're gonna die, talking about their problems, talking about things that they've done in the past off screen, which I think sucks horribly. And it's just really, yeah, it's really really underdeveloped, and it's stylistic, but nothing really like supports the style. There's no like substance, so you just see all of these good performances of uninteresting character conflict and really uninteresting like character dynamics. Like there were some moments that were like kind of funny-ish, like the way that like one of the main characters kind of ruined the party that everyone was hosting by, you know, huge air quotes, like making it about her, which is I think is like kind of what the movie was about. This sort of like feeling of like people making things about themselves or whatever. But like it just kind of went nowhere for me. It was just a bunch of kind of, I don't know, not to sound whatever, but just like kind of annoying sort of like millennial-ish people being like, oh, my life sucks, oh, I'm gonna die tomorrow, blah 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 blah. I don't know.
No, I think that's like the thing is, like I said, like it's hard for me to be like, what did I think of this film? Just because it's like I literally agree with all of that. Like all of that is true. Like yeah, the characters aren't really well developed. It's very stylistic, but there's not really a lot of substance to it, because the bit about it being like a full length Tim and Eric episode is that it is really just like one concept, which is what if you became convinced that you were going to die tomorrow, and then you like went around and telling people that, and everybody that you told that to then became infected with like the same just overwhelming sense that they are going to die tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
And it is I do agree. I feel like there's definitely like a better film that could have been made out of that. Like I feel like you could do like a really interesting like just sort of like concept about like the paranoia contagion out of that, and the film doesn't really do anything with that, which is disappointing. Yeah. But I just kind of like that it's just like, welcome to my movie. It's about how I have panic disorder. This is my movie about having a panic attack and nobody liking when I have panic attacks at the party.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very, very interested by the prospect of treating sort of mental illnesses as the sort of physical illnesses that they are, right? Because there's this, I don't know if I'm necessarily off base in kind of saying this, but I feel like there's this generalized assumption that like mental illnesses are not physical or are like separated from the physical realm of your body, but like that's what like neurons and shit are and brain cells. That's like it's absolutely physical, and depression is like a depression and anxiety are physical things that affect you. The idea of that kind of thing being contagious is really, really interesting to me. But the film doesn't really point its camera to that. The film kind of points its camera at the people themselves as they're like experiencing it. It kind of like drowns itself in their sort of like everyday problems in a way that like depression and anxiety are a little bit more sort of perennial. They're not so much based off of like, I don't know, not so much based off of like small kind of social things, I guess. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but yeah, it felt like the movie was like, oh my god, drama. There's so much drama that comes with having anxiety. I can't take all this drama and not really talking about the sort of like fictional like contagious disease that it made up, I guess.
No, I think that's true, and it's like I think a part of that is because it's like I read up on it, and the director was like, yeah, this is a movie I made about like like I think she said like the inspiration for it came from like trying to essentially explain like panic attacks to people, and like getting the sort of like, well, why don't you just stop? like response, just like,
Yeah.
well, why don't you like, are you like sad? Like, are you actually like sad? And so it's like it's that to that extent. It's like I think that's partially where it comes from. But I think you're right where it's like that's such an interesting idea, and I think like could make for like really good even some sort of like comedy horror to the extent of like, okay, show a film depicting like all of the stress and terror and like awful just like loomingness of an anxiety attack, and then add the idea of like, okay, now what if you could like give that to other people? Like, what if that was like literally a contagious like condition?
Right. Yeah.
Because like that's a lot of potential, and then a lot of it, what it is just sort of like kind of replicating like very obvious like things that have happened because I had a panic attack at a party and it was awkward, and it was awkward turtle moment.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I hesitate to say that it could have been longer. It could have been meatier, for sure. Like it could have. I just have like very sort of like nitty gritty, hard to explain issues with like how it introduces and portrays like the character relationships and like the conflicts and some of the stuff that happens. Because it's just like, all right, it's time to accept all of these facts about all of these people and all of these places and settings, and where like the movie doesn't really give you any frame of reference, or it doesn't really kind of explain a lot of the things that happen kind of before people get the contagion. Like it would have been interesting to see that one character. Oh god, I'm not going to remember anybody's names, but the character who like shut off his dad's life support.
Yeah.
Like maybe I'm misremembering. I only watched the movie once, so take that how you will. But I got the impression that I got is that they didn't really talk about his dad like prior to him getting the disease, and like same goes for like a lot of the different conflicts, like the person he's dating like talking about breaking up with him, like that all happens like after the disease. They don't really like set any of that up in like the early parts of the movie, for at least from what I remember. Maybe I'm misremembering, but so you don't have like a jumping off point prior. It just kind of goes into it like when they're in the shit.
No, you're right. Like there's like I having rewatched it, I don't remember still even like there being any real introduction of who those characters are. I think the closest is that the first character who kind of like is like the beginning and end of the film, when she calls the woman who's the sister, she's talking about like, oh my god, I got texted to get. She's on the phone. She's like, are you laying down? Are you talking into your pillow? Like, I can't understand you. I need you to speak up. And then she also mentions like, oh my god, my brother's texting me. He wants me to come to his party. I don't want to come to his party. I think his wife hates me. Like, I think that's the most they set up is that the sister who shows up to that party didn't actually want to go to the party and like lied to get out of it. Right. So there's some kind of like conflict set up there, but a lot of the larger conflicts that come out from that, like the man's father being sick and in the hospital, the couple being on like dire straits, even like the kid stuff, like them having kids was very confusing.
Yeah,
because like it's actually a thing where I feel like something that would have worked better could have even have been going further in the opposite direction, and that when the original character like disappears for a bit, I think it would have been interesting if she's just out of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Like just like, you know, maybe put the scene with her and the boyfriend like kind of near the start of the movie, and then just like she disappears, so like you as the audience also don't know if she's alive, if she's dead, if she's just turned her phone off, like what's going on. And so instead of like following all of these characters to this film, it's sort of just as they infect more people, we then just follow like those people, and it just becomes almost like a series of vignettes as you start to have these like growing parallel narratives of like just like this panic disorder spreading across the city.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's where I thought it was going at first, and then I forgot that in like the last 20 minutes, it's like, oh no, all those characters we introduced, like now we're going to resolve all of their conflicts, and I was like, I didn't really care about their conflicts. I just kind of thought that they were a vehicle for the panic disorder conflict.
Yeah, it didn't seem like the movie was really trying super hard to make the audience care about their like the movie was kind of framing their conflicts as really petty. And that's the whole thing. Like when the movie started, it was kind of like a funny idea of where like one of the girls is like hyper serious. Amy, I think, is the name of the main character. I might be wrong. But she's like having this really serious time, this like mental health crisis. And then she's talking on the phone and like her sister launches into all these like petty things. But like the petty sort of concerns kind of continued after people got the virus, which is not necessarily like unbelievable to me, but it was just like, oh, you actually want me to like be thinking about this. You actually want me to care about these things that you just framed as being kind of inconsequential in comparison to, you know, the main plot element that you set up. So it's kind of complicated. Like I think I would have like you kind of said, like I think I would have appreciated it more if it went in kind of like a slacker direction, where it just kind of ping pongs between like all of these different people who are getting it, and like you get like little vignettes of how it's affecting them, as opposed to like let's just kind of steep with these with these characters and these specific conflicts and stuff. That I was, you know, kind of whatever on.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair thing. Also, something I didn't notice when I watched this the first time, and I only noticed because I was looking something up, the two women who are in, not Amy, Jane, the sister, the two women who are like in her house when she just comes back, one of them is Michelle Rodriguez.
Cool. Love that.
Yeah, I completely forgot that like that those two people were in the movie, but like when I was looking it up, I saw like starring Michelle Rodriguez, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, who the fuck was Michelle Rodriguez in this? I feel like maybe a small part of it is that the director Amy Seimetz is like a Hollywood actress, like I think it's just TV producer. Yeah, she's like a TV producer and TV star person. And so not to suggest that like she can't have interesting insight, But I feel like that might be part of the problem, is that like if she's drawing on an experience she has amongst like other actors and actresses, maybe the problem is just that they do actually have really shallow problems.
Yeah. sorry, LA
she
actors
paid
and
for this
actresses.
movie with she paid for this movie with that Pet Sematary money.
Ooh, oh yeah. Oh, she was in that.
She was in the really bad remake of Pet Sematary.
I thought it was funny when she was like playing the same like huge bummer song over and over and over again.
I was just about to say that. I was like, I think the thing that gets the biggest laugh out of me in that film is still the if you just imagine the like melodramatic, super melancholic song, you were probably thinking of the song that they use in this movie.
Yeah.
But just the continuing bit they'll have of it just stopping like mid like note. Like when Jane first shows up at Amy's house, it's like just building and like it's like building and building this like huge crescendo, and then she walks in and the song just stops, like full, just like halts to a complete silent stop, and it's like that is what it feels like when you're having a panic attack and literally anything interrupts it.
Yeah.
I will say I also did really. I admittedly was very weak for the fact that I love the weird, just like visual design of the film. Like every time these characters are being overcome with an anxiety attack, it's just like this this series of like neon lights and like flashes of like distorted imagery and like just like billowing whispering voices that like sound like they might have meaning to them, but like you're not really given any context. Like I really think that the film would have been best if like we were consistently shown things that we didn't have any context for, because that is what it's like when someone is having a panic attack, is like, and they're trying to explain it to you, is that it sounds like complete gibberish.
Yeah, for sure. It did kind of capture how like overwhelming to the senses a panic attack is, and how everything is just like super overwhelming, and yeah, like holding your head underwater and shit. It made for a good like visual signature for the movie, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a thing where it's like it's another one of those films where I watch it and I'm like, man, I can't wait for like, I don't know, like a high schooler or something to watch this and get really into it and then like make a better movie later.
Yeah.
Some work is good because it's like you can watch it and you're just like, this is going to inspire some like real good content.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I hope I don't know. I hope there's more movies that are like this, that kind of explore the ins and outs of anxiety and panic attacks, the feeling of impending doom. If anything, it was like, it's definitely a timely movie. It came out at the right time. I just, I obviously have my problems with it that I've already gone over. But I appreciate where it's coming from and what it's trying to do, for sure.
Here's a joke name title for the movie that I came up with. She Days Tomorrow.
Oh, bada bing! Hey,
Bada bing! That could be a movie about Jesse Single's stupid theory of like transness as a social contagion.
Wait, let's make that movie.
Okay. A movie where it's like at the start of the film she's on a date with a boyfriend, and then when he goes to get the pizza man is like a trans woman who's delivering his pizza, and she just goes like, "You've got like egg vibes." And then he's like, "I think I might be trans." And then she hears that and she's like, "Oh, I think I might be trans." And then it just spreads.
Nobody steal that idea. Nobody take that. We're the only ones that are gonna handle. We're the only ones that can handle that radioactive material. Actually, we're not, but you know what I mean.
We're the only ones both problematic and woke enough to strike the balance necessary to make that movie.
Oh my god. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Last thing that I will say, I like that it's short. I like that it doesn't try to drag itself into too long of a film.
Yeah, it was a decent length for what it was.
And I liked the bit at the start of the film where she's looking at urns. Depressed online like anxious online shopping, totally a thing. So
yeah,
I like
that was really
and then
funny, actually.
And then I like that she decides that she wants to be a leather coat. And then at the end of the film, it reinforces that where she's like, okay, I'm going to go lay out in the middle of the desert because the guy I went and saw said that that's what I need to do if I want to be made into a leather coat when I die.
What would you rather have spent your anxiety money on?
So like you can like order gabapentin online.
Damn.
So like yeah, that's that like maybe like instead of my drive-in ticket price, like maybe like getting some more gabapentin. Because you know you could just never have enough.
Gabapentin rules. I'm glad it's like one of the less kind of controlled substances. For people who don't know, gabapentin is an anti-anxiety medication. You can take it while you're having a panic attack, and it'll basically, from what I hear, stop your panic attack. I've tried some before.
It's the thing that's interesting about it, and like part of the reason why it hasn't been like just like, oh, this works, we better make it so you can't get it easily, is because it's actually it's basically off-label use. It was originally developed as like nerve medication for legs. Right? I think is so what funny. It is. Yeah, so it's just, but it's like, oh, it works for this, so like because it calms your nerves down, and you can't get addicted, or it's not addictive in the same way that like benzos or anything else is. So it's pretty easy to get a prescription for it, and it's not a controlled substance, so you can order it online.
Cool, awesome. I would rather spend my money on maybe lithium, which I think is a controlled substance.
It might be, but that doesn't mean you can't order it online. Let me see. I'm checking right now if you could just order it via the gray market.
Yeah.
Lithium. Lithium carbonate. No, you can order it.
Cool. Yeah. Gabapentin for the panic attacks, lithium for the horrible intrusive thoughts, and you're all set. You're set to run a marathon.
And you can also order your if you are on the girl hormones, you can order that through this website through online as well.
Ooh, nice.
You cannot boy hormones for unfortunately very obvious reasons.
Yeah, sorry boys.
I definitely get why it's like more controlled for like cis men. I feel like I guess I get it. I guess because if a trans mask person is buying it but like not actually using it, they could probably sell it to like a cis jogger or whoever it is that uses those.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's that much of a weird thing for cis men to take either. Like so many cis guys just have like hormone levels that are all over the place. I think it would help a lot of people, but who's to say?
I know that's why Androgel is a thing.
Yeah.
Because it was like originally developed so that like dudes could rub it on their balls and like be able to fuck more or whatever it is that cis men are concerned with all the time.
Yeah. Who fucking knows? Who knows the world of the cis man? I would not rather have spent my money on an urn. Because I think, I don't know, I think when I die, I'm just gonna like, probably, honestly, I'll probably do what she did at the end of the movie where just like walk into the desert or walk into the woods and just kind of chill. Or rather, I would love for that to be what I am able to do. Just kind of decompose on the forest floor, which is a normal thing to think about, I think.
No, I think so. I mean, nowadays.
What would you not rather have spent your money on?
See, I would spend it on urns. So I can't say that as an excuse. I guess I'm glad I didn't spend that money on like a pack of smokes because I've kind of quit them enough that like if I have them on hand, they just make me more like anxious because then I'm like, well, I have these. I might as well have a cigarette. And then I end up smoking too many, and then I end up having a panic attack, and I turn into the. I literally was like earlier this week doing the thing where like I had too many cigarettes hanging out with friends, and then I was like at home being like, I'm dying. I'm getting a blood clot.
No. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's absolutely why I can't do cigs. They're bad for your health and bad for your brain, but they're very cool to do, honestly.
They do just make you look so cool. Is the unfortunate truth.
God, anything.
Don't start smoking, kids. You listen to us. But if you do want to look cool, it's fast and easy to do so.
Yeah, it's a one-step process. Yeah. So that closes the book on She Dies Tomorrow. She dies today, as far as I'm concerned.
As far as I'm concerned, she died yesterday.
Now we have a movie that is much more dense and has seemingly much more to say. House of Hummingbird. Yeah. What'd you think, Jay?
House of Hummingbird was fantastic. It's a very good film. It is a debut film from Kim Bora. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And yeah, it's a South Korean. It's like a short, not short. It's like a very like simple and concept drama film. I've been calling it Korean. I've been calling it like 8th grade, but like from a South Korean like director.
Yeah. It's 8th grade, but better.
Yeah, it's 8th grade, but it really blows 8th grade out of the water, which is wild because I did really like 8th grade, but it's like, oh, but this is just like crushes it.
Yeah. I mean, 8th grade suffers a little bit from trying to be, I guess, kind of funny. There's like some like 8th grade has some like skits in it from what I remember, or not like literal skits, but just like scenes where there's like a skit style kind of punchline, and it really is like talking about kind of the spectacle of being cringe in middle school or whatever. Whereas House of Hummingbird is like a really, really like a really dense kind of emotional portrait of the same experiences. Like it touches on abuse, it touches on family dynamics, it touches on like real life disasters that can happen, people that kind of like fall in and out of your life.
It talks about like gayness, like proto queerness as a child. Like I think the way you put it is really good because it's 8th grade is about being a cringe middle schooler, but it's about that in this where it's like, okay, but we have to establish that like, she is kind of cringe.
Yeah.
And not in like a way that's mocking, but in a way that's like, it has to establish that there is like air quotes a reason she feels that way. Whereas House of Hummingbird is like Eunhee is not really like there's nothing like air quotes wrong with her. There's just like a 100 small things that make her feel alienated from everyone around her.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely loved this movie. It was so good. And that it was for that reason where it just portrays so well like all of these aspects of her life that are alienating her and are making her crazy. Because there is that whole scene where she's kind of she's not strictly being yelled at by her family. Her family is just kind of outside of her door. They're like, it's like that thing where like the dad is throwing a tantrum, and like kind of ambiently yelling at you, but also about you. And like the mom is kind of like fighting him, but also doesn't know what to do. So she like just has to sit in her room and like listen to all this shit. And she just like freaks out, and she's just like, there's nothing fucking wrong with me, like everything is bizarre and fucked up, and like I'm just trying to make it through, or whatever. But
God,
that scene was very good.
That scene is incredible. There's so many scenes like that too, where it's like the director really understands like what being like anxious, alienated, like 13, 14-year-old, and just like how strongly emotions come on and how
Yeah.
much like you can't really control them or understand them or convey them. Where it's like it's very clear that she's freaking out because of like a bunch of things going on in her life, but it's like, oh, because she doesn't really know how to process her emotions like properly yet. This is just the moment where it's like this is the thing that finally like sets her off and like pulls that thread loose and just causes all of this stuff to come like pouring out. And there's like a bunch of scenes like that. There's like my favorite scene is like the scene when her and her friend reconcile. Uh because it's like a
Yeah.
very sweet little scene and it's just like they don't know how to like maintain antagonism towards each other because they miss each other, but they also don't really know how to like resolve the conflict that they had. So it's just like they just blurt out, they're like, I was upset because I thought you were doing this, well I was upset because you did this and it made me feel this way, well I don't want to be mad anymore. Well I don't want to be mad anymore either. Okay, so let's be friends again. It's such a it's I love when like films like this like actually know how to write like in a way that both like to an adult audience is going to be able to be like empathetic to like that, but isn't going to be like I'm going to have these kids talk in ways that like kids don't talk.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It was impeccably written. That scene, oh my god, that scene is so, and the fact that it's kind of precipitated by like the character not really being able to explain why she ratted the other girl out. Because basically, there's a scene earlier where they shoplift from a stationery store and they get in trouble, and basically they like call the one girl's dad, and he's just like, all right, whatever, arrest her then. And the guy's like, well, I'm not gonna arrest her. Fuck this. Um, but yeah, they get like really, really mad at each other, and they just kind of there's like this communication breakdown, um, that just culminates in them like having like the crying apology scene that is so good, so realistic. Definitely have experienced that. Um, I also want to kind of highlight how the movie sort of portrays like familial abuse, because it's definitely a theme that is something that the director has used before. There was a short film that Jay sent me by the same director. I don't remember what it was called. It was like something like recorder.
Recorder exam, I believe.
Yeah, the recorder exam.
Yeah, the recorder exam is what it's called.
Um,
Also very good, very much so worth checking out, and I'm pretty sure it's actually a prequel to this movie.
yeah. It seemed like it was kind of like the same characters and like or like at least similar characters, like same kind of dynamics, but it's really interesting. If you end up checking out, if anybody listening hasn't checked out House of Hummingbird and ends up checking it out, definitely check out this other short film as well. If you like it, it touches on, basically, I think the same character. It might still be Unhee.
I looked into it, and it's hard because like this is like a newer film, and like obviously it's a shorter film, so there's less writing on it. But it is it is Uni in both,
Mm-hmm.
and the time that it's set does match up with like the ages of the characters. So like she's 14, and it's 1994 in House of Hummingbird, and then she's like 9, and it's 1989 in the Recorder Exam.
Okay.
But it's one of those things where I don't know if it's explicitly supposed to be like a prequel or if it's just like a short film she made and then she kind of like recycled the characters, but it's not actually supposed to be the same characters.
Yeah. It could go either way. But it's really, really very good. It's about Unhee like practicing for a recorder exam, but her family is like always around, and they think it's like super annoying. And there's like all of this conflict throughout it where like she can't really find a place to practice, just because everything is so like kind of claustrophobic in her life. And it also has the theme of like an older brother who is just kind of a shithead and just kind of like orders her around for no reason, and then when she doesn't do what he says, he just hits her. And specifically, like the thing that I appreciate about it is the way that it's portrayed, because it's not really portrayed as being. A lot of movies kind of steer towards this like very romantic view of abuse, where it's like very sort of emotionally framed. Whereas with these movies, it's just like a very wide shot of him like stomping into her room, and then you just like hear her yell or something like that. Um,
And you'll see her with
because
like a bruise later, or she's in the short.
yeah,
Her father finds her in her wardrobe crying later.
yeah, because the style of it really presents like a very specific kind of feeling about victimhood, I guess, to where like I don't know, hard to explain, but it's not necessarily like being a lot of movies, like I said, want to make it like this like hyper emotional thing, and it is certainly like emotionally affecting, but like I appreciate the like lack of sort of like music, the lack of sort of like, you know, kind of stylization, and just kind of making it feel like a really stupid slap fight that siblings get in that is absolutely not mutual, which is just kind of places itself like at many different points along your emotions, to where it's just like kind of frustrating and annoying, but also this deeper feeling of just like, man, this fucking sucks.
Yeah, no, it's and the way in both films it like also reinforces kind of like, because I think in both of them it's specifically around the fact that the brother is studying, and it's sort of like,
Yeah,
well, what
yeah,
I am doing is more important and is of more value than whatever you are doing, and like how it reinforces. It's like it's abuse that like
yeah,
isn't just like sibling conflict, isn't just like siblings hitting like one sibling hitting the other. It isn't just like a matter of like the physical abuse element. It's the fact that it's like the physical abuse is a component of like her reinforcement of her placement within the family. Because in both films, the
absolutely.
complimenting thing is also that her older sister like doesn't really respect her privacy or like the fact that they share a space either. In House of Hummingbird,
Right.
her older sister is basically constantly enlisting her to like cover for her so that she can like sneak out and stuff. And then in the recorder exam, it's like her sister literally brings over like her boyfriend, and so Amy has to go sleep in the wardrobe, and her sister's like, "Oh, she just likes to do that sometimes," and not like she's doing that because you were like invading her space, and she can't get sleep if you are doing that.
And like the same thing kind of extends to like the mother and the father of the family, where like a lot of their kind of sources of stress are technically separate from the family, but they definitely take it out on the family. The father is also like kind of verbally abusive in this like separate way. There's like a lot of context of his job being stressful. It's basically just about like the stress of living in, I guess, a really capitalist nation or whatever, and in a really kind of tumultuous time, and how there's just like an unbelievable amount of pressure on like all sides of this family, that compounds with like a lot of different elements, a lot of stressful real life events and shit like that.
Yeah, no, I was reading on it, and part of the reason why the film is structured around the collapse or builds towards the collapse of the bridge is because a big part of the theme of the movie, she said, was the effects of like rapid modernization. And so my assumption is that
Yeah,
that collapse is, I assume, thus in Korea, sort of understood as having been an example of like the bridge being built too quickly or modernized too quickly. And so it was like a very horrifying accident that was like the cause of neglect due to like rapid capitalism. And like you can see that in
right.
this film as well, where it's like all the individual family members are essentially being pulled in these different directions by just rapid modernity, by just trying to adapt and survive and figure out their place in the society. And we are seeing it through the lens of the youngest daughter, who is like coming up and like developing a sense of self in a context in which there is no support for anything except that she needs to like not be in the way.
Yeah, it's really rough, but it's definitely really resonant for those reasons, where she's just kind of her life and like the things that she wants to develop about herself kind of have to like sneak through the cracks, or like through the margins of kind of how everyone else is trying to live their life. Um, and it's not like she's kind of acting out or like seeking romantic partners or shoplifting out of like this sort of necessity, I guess, but she just kind of is already she's in this like situation where she's already putting pressure on so many people just by existing, just by living, and by kind of being in the same space as other people. So she has to kind of minimize that like where she can, and try to like act out in you know ways that maybe aren't going to affect her family, but eventually kind of come around and do affect her family. But um yeah, just the movie had like a really deft and really amazing um portrayal of that, and it talks about that really 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 well. uh I do really want to talk about like the teacher character, because that's kind of almost the center point of this movie to me, where she goes to a Chinese calligraphy class. And at first she has like one teacher, but then that teacher gets fired, so she gets a substitute that she ends up liking a lot better. And the substitute kind of like gives her a lot of like personal advice and sees the like all the pressure that she's under. Uh, and is like the first person she meets that like tries to kind of understand her. Um, and the way that they portrayed her character was like stellar. I just thought her character was like amazing as like kind of like a centerpiece to the film.
Yeah, no, I really like her because it's like she's very quiet, and it's very much so like you get this sense that you're kind of also seeing her through Uni's eyes, where it's this sort of somewhat idealized, but also this sense of like you kind of only really know like a bit about her, but that's really that only all she
Yeah,
needs to know, because it's like, oh, this is a person who is like nice to me and like actually takes like pays attention to me and like takes an interest in like my development, both like as a student, like overall, not just as a student within like my class.
right. Yeah. And the way she navigates like the girls clearly being pissed off at each other. Um great scene. Just a lot of great scenes with her. Uh and I thought it was really important for her to kind of for the movie to kind of show her like falling out of the main character's life kind of suddenly, because there's this whole sequence of events where she quits her job at the Chinese calligraphy school, and she doesn't really tell Eunhee about it, and the person who's running the school like tells Eunhee like the wrong time to meet her as she's packing her stuff, and then she later on dies in the fucking bridge collapse. And it's like a huge bummer, but it is also just very just very real, for lack of a better way to
Yeah,
kind
it's
of talk
such a
about it.
it really is like the emotional like core of the film, in the sense of like basically just about like how much of life is a bummer of like of bad circumstances that you don't have control over.
Yeah. Yeah, and how it's kind of, you see this like learning experience happen with her, where like people who are like at the time important and like help to kind of shape you into the person that you're meant to be, blah blah blah, just kind of fall out of existence. And it's in a lot of ways it's nobody's fault technically, but it's still really fucking, it like sucks, but it also is what it is. And the movie kind of uh rides the line on that really really effectively, and portrays it really 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 effectively, kind of in a similar way to how it portrays Eunhee's relationship to another girl that she meets, at like she and her friend go to like a dancing club that's like uh like an all ages club, and they meet like other teenage girls who are like the same age as them, uh and one of the girls makes it clear that like she has a crush on Eunhee, and they kind of embark on this relationship after Eunhee like dumps her boyfriend or something. Well, yeah, her boyfriend like kind of dumps her.
It's even weirder because like there's so much that happens in this film, and like and that's in a good way that I forget all these that happen. It's he basically dumps her via like he's like very obviously an inattentive boyfriend, but then it's like, oh, okay, like come on, like you can like you'll meet my mom, and then the mom is just immediately like, you're not good enough for my boyfriend, and like that's it. Like the relationship is just ended by like the mom being a piece of shit, and just or like the mom just being like, no, you're not good enough, sorry.
God, so shitty. Yeah, but then like that kind of culminates in the girl that she's temporarily dating, like meeting up with her later on and her being like, oh, you thought that was going to be a thing? No, that was like a whole month ago. Why would you think I would still feel the same way about you or whatever? Which is like,
it's
crushing.
So
It's really a lot of the movie is like that. But I mean, like, you know, that's also kind of a real like teenager experience. I mean, you know, but just yeah, points to this movie for like portraying that and writing that. It's really funny, but it's also it's also how dare really,
you.
really sad. There's like a whole hospital subplot too, where she has to get surgery.
Yeah, which is where the image of her with the thing on her. It's also like she has to get surgery, and it's almost treated as like something she has to undertake and embark on entirely on her own. Like her family's like really bad at like supporting her on it, and it's kind of implied that it's like possibly like a pretty serious medical issue.
Yeah, like the biopsy comes back and the guy's like, you gotta go to a better hospital.
And then she's like, it's, you know, she's 14, she doesn't really understand it, and her parents are like, oh, well, you know, yeah, well, we'll make sure you get there. And then I think there's like this scene where like they break down crying because it's like whatever this thing that she's getting treated is for, it's not good and it could go really, really bad.
Yeah.
And like everyone is kind of just like not to her face taking it seriously, so she's not really sure how to feel about it.
Yeah, that performance aspect on the part of the parents was really excellent, because like when it first becomes kind of a plot point, the mom is just kind of like laying on the couch and she's like she has this like really varying level of attention on it, and like she obviously like she takes it seriously a little bit, but she doesn't really know how to feel yet, and she's also just like fucking tired because like that's
because
just
the
a
life
constant...
that she lives is yeah.
So it's the specific thing of like a family that is just kind of like battening down the hatches and just like barely holding itself together. It's just like being like, oh, what now? You know?
Yeah.
And the way that they're kind of portrayed as just like being, just like having to roll through like that source of stress, and like the source of stress of like the older sister almost being in the bridge collapse.
Oh, I forgot about that, because like they try to reach her and they can't.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And that's like the only time that you see the brother show really any emotion. Like he's crying and like
he like starts crying like immediately. It's just like which I kind of like, because it's like it sort of suggests that like as shitty as he is and as much of his behavior seems like very like unemotional, that to me kind of suggests that like, oh, maybe he's actually running just like at 90% stress capacity.
Yeah.
And so like all it takes is that one thing, and then he's just like too stressed, doesn't know what to do, just breaks down crying.
Yeah, and I mean like that's the movie is so strong for all of that stuff, because it's, I mean, you know, that's just kind of what being in a family is. Like sometimes you just like fucking feel like an alien, and it's just like, do these people even fucking like me? But you know, then it kind of, certain things kind of show through in how you handle stress together, and you know, things can be kind of frayed and made more difficult by the outside world. But I don't know, it's very complicated, and the way, like, a lot of movies kind of don't even try to split the difference in that way. Like, they try to either portray a family that is unilaterally loving or unilaterally abusive. And in this movie, there's room for all of it, which is really, really stellar and really, really amazing.
I will say, like, this is a director I'm very excited to see what else she does, because she's not, like, every the two things that she's put out I've really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I did really like, there's like a background subtext of housing development, and like and like the way in which that is like driving people out of their homes. Essentially, there's this set of buildings that she follows a lot that have these signs on them that are essentially like, "We live here. Like,
Yeah.
you can't drive us out. Like, please don't." And there's like a part where she's walking with her teacher and she asks about it, and the teacher's like, "Oh, it's people trying to protest so that they don't get kicked out of their homes." And she just goes like, "Why are people trying to kick them out of their homes?" And the teacher just goes like, "I don't know. It's weird." It's just
Weird
straight
world.
up was like, "That's a great question."
God. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. That's like a really, it's like a subtle thing. It shows up in like 2 or 3 scenes. But yeah, there's these huge signs, like written in red paint, where they're just like, it's this kind of passive protest that everybody has to like walk by. And then like in one of the last scenes, all of the signs are like torn up and shit. God, yeah. Really, really big bummer, but definitely like another point of like social pressure, like world pressure that would that helps to kind of contextualize like what the family is experiencing, and like possibly what the parents are experiencing, like, you know, behind their kids' backs, like not strictly, you know, necessarily like housing issues, but just kind of like a really cannibalizing society that they have to be performing well, or else they'll, you know, get kicked out of their homes, or, you know, shit like that.
I love the part where she brings the food to the teacher too, and she like echoes the things her dad said earlier when he was complaining about like some customer who always gives him shit. He's like, "We have the best like fresh rice, da 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 da," and then the teacher compliments the food. She just like repeats what her dad said. It's like really cute. It's like a really cute detail.
Oh my god, yeah. That was really good.
Even like this one, like the uncle who shows up like just blacked out drunk at the start of the film, and then like later they have to attend his funeral. It really is like, also I think captures this idea of just like how when you're young it feels like things are constantly happening.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Like just as you're becoming old enough to be conscious of like what is going on, not just like outside of your immediate family, but like within your immediate family, and just how it suddenly starts to make everything feel like, oh, everything is constantly happening. Like people are constantly just coming and going. Things are constantly changing. Your relationships to other people are constantly like at risk and or growing and or like suddenly disappearing. It's a very sweet film that is just occupying this moment in a child's life.
Yeah. It's so good. That's like yet another piece of set dressing of just like I just really, really, you know, a little bit broken record, but it's the way that the movie kind of dances around these like sources of pressure, to where like you can obviously tell that they're there, but it doesn't directly show them, and it kind of like talks around them. Because didn't the uncle like commit suicide, or was it something else? It was like, because he was obviously in the scene where you see him, he's like really disturbed and like really, you know, really drunk and really upset.
He's obviously not doing well. I'd have to go back and like rewatch the scene where they talk about it, because like I think it might be that it's either implied that he might have killed himself, or that it was like an accident or that it was something that happened like immediately after he left the home. So there's like an air of guilt about it that they like should have done something to stop him.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
It's
yeah.
I definitely remember the dialogue being set up in a way to imply that like the family has a sense of guilt of like feeling like they failed him from stopping him, so that it was something related to either his alcoholism or that night or like depression. Another thing that I do really like about this film is that it's weird to say like I like that it's a film with like a gay character, but it's not a gay film, because I don't mean that in like the annoying way where people are like, why do they have to make such a big deal about the character's sexuality? But it's more that it's like I would definitely qualify this as a gay film, because I think if you're an LGBTQ person, like you probably can relate a lot to the feeling of being starting to enter puberty and feeling confusingly alienated and unable to understand people.
Yeah.
But I like that one of the aspects of that is the fact that there's this burgeoning like uncertainty about her sexuality. There's the girl she meets. There's obvious, somewhat implied romantic interest in her friend, possibly. There's the very obvious like crush on her teacher, which her teacher, I don't think like her teacher encourages it. Like I'm trying to think of like the teacher seems to probably pick up on it and is just aware that like, oh, this is a scroll girl crush. It's fine. Like I'm setting firm boundaries on this. Like
Yeah.
I will come visit her in the hospital because I know it'll mean a lot to her. But like it's definitely like very like, oh, you know, like this is it's unusual that I'm getting it from a female student, but like this is a thing that happens.
Right.
And so when I say like but it's not like a big thing about it, is that it's like it's sort of threaded through the film as just another aspect of her life, which is contributing to this uncertainty on where she is in her life.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to, yeah, it's a little hard to, I guess, explain or whatever, but yeah, I totally get what you mean, and I totally agree with you, where, like, there is a lot of confusion as, like, specifically as kind of like a bit of a younger teen, as to, like, you have experiences that are, you know, quotes, like, in quotes here, like, gay, but they kind of, like, for some of the experiences, like, the rug is pulled out from under you, and you don't really necessarily, like, think of yourself in like clear terms like that. It's just like, oh, this is just like a really complicated like symptom of my like weirdness, or my non-normativeness or whatever. So it just becomes this like really weird sort of bundle of like feelings and shit. Feelings and shit.
It's just another thing where it's like she's proto developing an identity, so she's not really at a point where she is like,
Yeah.
I am bi. She's just at a point of like, I have feelings for this person, and I literally like barely know and I'm like too dissociated from myself to know what that means.
Yeah, to know why, or like, yeah, or what could be causing them or whatever. Yeah. So I thought that was like a really, that's part of the dynamic with her teacher specifically that is, you know, it's like a texture that makes it so much more real. Because who hasn't been there? That's like
it happens. It's just the old crush on the teacher.
Yeah.
I think like that makes sense, because it's like when you're starting to have a burgeoning like sexual identity, it's like, well, okay, if you aren't imprinting on another teenager and you're more likely to imprint on an adult, it's going to be either a media figure or the only other adults who are in your life that you're not physically related to, which are teachers.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't really talked about her kind of short-lived, like, or not actually short-lived, but like her weird relationship with like the boy that she dates, that is like weirdly off and on, and like just kind of just kind of depressing.
It's such a like teen relationship thing of like one of them being way into it in a
Yeah.
very like this is my one and only, and then being like, I don't know, maybe. I mean, like, I like being like around you, but
Right.
like, I guess we could like make out. Just like
Ugh.
completely just like uninterested in a relationship, but not understanding that like that you don't have to be in a relationship with somebody just because they want to be in one with you, but not being able to like not take advantage of that, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it.
The
It's
part.
the film really knows just how much kids that age have too many emotions and zero ability to explain them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, just zero. No way to like navigate that kind of stuff. The scene where she's like recording the mixtape and she's just like, this is day 118 of our relationship. I mean, like there were some days where you just weren't talking to me at all.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, but I guess I still count that. And it's just, and then also really funny that she holds the microphone up to the speaker to record. Uh, God, so so
I
real.
I love that detail of her making him a mixtape, and it is transferring it in the most like holding a microphone up to like and like recording little lines in between it, like she's like emceeing their mixtape.
Yeah. uh, yeah, yeah. So many really great like character relationship portraits. The movie like really confidently progresses along those lines with like how she her dynamics with everybody. So they're all like really entertaining and like really meaty in that same way. Uh, so yeah, definitely recommend this one. Any other I don't know, any other any other plot threads that we've left out? There's like so many plot threads in this movie, which sounds like usually that's kind of maybe
It's
not the greatest thing, but in this movie it really pulls it off.
it was a thing where I will say like on that regards like there's a lot in this film, and the first time I tried to watch it, it put me off, and then I like returned to it because I was like there's things about that like I liked, so like I came back. I think I got like 30 minutes in maybe the first time, and I was so glad I did because it's like it lays a lot of groundwork early on
Yeah.
that blossoms into a very 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 good film. But it will seem in those first 30 minutes like it's like, oh, this is going to be an aimless film with a lot of things that happen that don't go anywhere.
Hmm.
It's just very very it just is setting up a lot of things for it. And I think the director's even like said somewhere like, oh yeah, maybe I made the film a little longer than it needed to be, but it's good. It's a good film. I highly recommend it. I highly
Yeah.
recommend checking it out and checking out the short film, The Recorder
Yeah.
Exam.
Yeah. When I first sat down to watch it, when I first sat down to watch House of Hummingbird, I was a little bit intimidated by the runtime, but I ended up kind of watching it as like a mini series. Like I would watch about 30 minutes and then I would pause and then I would go do something, watch another 30, pause, go eat. And normally I would never recommend anybody like do that for a movie, but it actually like really, really like worked out. Like like if this director and writer really wanted to make like a series that was similar to this, like I would be completely I would be like completely on board.
Oh
Or
yeah, dude. She could absolutely make like a really good miniseries. Like I think she has the chops for it, and I think I mean, the short film could easily be like an episode in a miniseries.
yeah, or she could just keep making movies with the same character and actor, and and like just do like some Boyhood shit. That would be really
Oh,
cool,
I was
actually.
gonna say that would be really cute, actually.
Boyhood, but good, and about a girl.
Oh, interesting. I was reading. Apparently, the director said like part of what inspired the film was she is because like a lot of the film is very obviously drawn from like memoiric stuff. Like there's little bits and pieces that she takes from it. But I guess what inspired the film was she had like a nightmare while living in New York about like her childhood, like just like some some trauma like met like nightmare kind of thing, and was just like, oh, I need to make a movie to like deal with it, to process this.
That's really, really cool. That's actually like an amazing. I feel like dreams and like nightmares and shit is like an amazing place for like drawing inspiration from. Like that's where all of the kind of unfinished ideas and shit that I really like have come from for me. So that makes a lot of sense. That tracks. It's really fucking cool though. I'm very glad that she made this film because it was very highly relatable and very you know, very very helpful in kind of the same way that I hope it, you know, helped her to make. It portrayed in a way that I really liked, just a lot of difficult experiences that teenagers go through, which is not usually a movie that I like to see, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of reiterations of, but like this feels like, you know, to date the definitive one for me personally.
I'm really hopeful. I think we'll probably see more from her too, because I was just looking at her Wikipedia page. And this movie received about 59 awards from various prestigious film festivals.
Yeah,
cool. all over, literally all over the world. Just like this movie was winning awards left and right.
Yeah. Yeah. It stylistically, it did remind me of like a couple other movies. I hate to bring up another director's name for like name comparison purposes or whatever, but Lee Chang-dong, who did Burning and Poetry and Secret Sunshine.
I was actually thinking that it reminded me a bit of Sunshine, and I was like, and then it reminded me like, oh, I need to watch, or I think it's Secret Sunshine, right?
Yeah, Secret Sunshine.
I need to watch Burning still, but yeah, no, it definitely gave me off that same sort of like slow burn where you kind of feel like, oh, is this going to be like a sleepy movie? And then you're like, oh no, this is a very upsetting movie.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of Poetry, where I actually didn't like Poetry as much as I liked House of Hummingbird. I thought House of Hummingbird had a lot more a like wider spectrum of like humanity to it than Poetry did, because Poetry does feel a little bit like you're you know, peeping on like some really depressing shit in someone's life. But I just think that like the really kind of understated style and like the wide still shots and like all of that stuff is like a really great vehicle for this type of drama and this type of like really, really textured, you know, kind of gritty type of stuff. Another movie, I'll include like a little mini review of a movie that also came out recently out of Japan called A Girl Missing, which does the same thing where it's like very little music, still shots, personal human drama, which to kind of compare and contrast, like A Girl Missing is like a good movie technically, but is also like the same problem as Poetry, but like way worse, where it's just like, this movie is about suffering, so watching it is suffering. But like it's definitely, if you really liked House of Hummingbird and also Poetry, definitely check out A Girl Missing, because it's about like how conservative attitudes affect women and make, you know, people kind of paranoid and turn against each other and all of this other shit. I thought it was horrifyingly depressing, but but you know, maybe someone out there will like it. But point being, this is a really powerful style, and I'm really happy to see more movies kind of in that wheelhouse.
I am really hoping between this and like Lee Fong Dong and Parasite getting all the accolades, like I am excited to see Western film distributors maybe start taking Korean film seriously enough that it's easier to see over here.
Yeah, I would love to be able to watch movies like House of Hummingbird at like you know, not like I'm itching to go to a mainstream theater, but I feel like it should have. We need to just get over the fucking subtitle thing. Just shut the fuck up, everybody. Like,
it's insane to me that it's still an issue when everybody watches movies with subtitles now anyway.
Yeah. Like everyone I know turns on the Netflix subtitles when the movie is already in English. It's like, you know, hopefully as the older generations die out and millennials with their ADHD take over, it becomes more of a thing to just have subtitled movies show up in places where people are able to fucking watch them.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Or you don't have to go to like a $40 film festival to see what 5 Korean films have been brought over to America this year. And we're just not really seeing. I don't know. I say we're not really seeing movies like this from America anytime soon. But I'm sure if I thought about it, I'm like, oh yeah, there's still good Western filmmakers.
Yeah, I mean, never, rarely, sometimes, always is like it's not the same style, but it's the same. It's a similar level of realism and a similar level of compassion for its characters. And
Miss Juneteenth is also really good for that, which, by the way, is on Canopy. If people saw our last review of it and wanted to watch it, sign up for a library card and see if your local library has Canopy.
It's free, $99.
It is $0.00, and they get a lot of good independent films. And honestly, probably a good chance that they'll get House of Hummingbird at some point too.
Yeah, fuck it, why not?
They tend to be pretty decent about picking up like newer international films that otherwise would like probably not really get put onto fucking Netflix or
sure, yeah,
whatever.
God, fucking Amazon Prime. Whatever.
Man, fuck Amazon Prime.
Fuck Amazon. Fuck you, Bezos.
Amazon, more like Amazon crime. Am I right?
Wow, if you think about it, that is what it is like. Yeah, what would you rather have spent your money on than House of Hummingbird?
I would rather have spent my money on maybe like if I had gotten the option to see Secret Sunshine like in theaters or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I'm thinking about it, I'm just thinking about how good that film is, and I'm like, oh, there is that Criterion like release of it. Maybe like if it goes like on sale and I can get it on like Blu-ray,
right?
You know, I might be down for that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I didn't spend my money on that Shirley Jackson movie that I recommended to you that apparently fucking sucked.
Oh God, yeah. That movie fucking sucked, which I hate to say because I love Elizabeth Moss so much. What a fucking goddamn nightmare. That's like the exact style of movie, like the exact opposite style of movie to House of Hummingbird, definitely.
So, this might be a problematic take. I think that if I had just clicked on the director's name, I would have known better because one of her big debut films was a documentary called By the Way, and that's By spelled B-I.
No! Oh my God, my headphones fell off from how bad that is.
And just the idea of just like, do you want to see a movie by a person who directed a movie, who made a documentary about being bisexual? No, thank you. I'm all good. I can go on Twitter for that. To be clear, if somebody made a film in like 2008 that was just called like By the Gay and it was just a movie about being gay, I would also think that that's really stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, come on.
Because it's that's not a concept for a documentary. That's like an entire subjective like identity which you cannot capture in like 90 minutes. Like, you gotta go a little bit more narrow in your focus than that.
Yeah.
Lastly, here's a line from it. Lastly, in San Antonio, Texas, Josh 11 fears his gay father will reject him if he pursues his growing interest in girls.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck
That's
you,
not a
fuck
thing.
you,
That's
fuck
not
you,
a thing.
Fuck you. Oh my God.
Why are you encouraging an 11-year-old to believe that? Why are you, the filmmaker, allowing a child to say that on screen and you not immediately go, that's not gonna happen. Also, you're 11. Like, what? Pursue what?
I love my dead homophobic son. Well, I would not rather have spent my money on that at all. And I guess I would rather have spent my money on, honestly, Chinese calligraphy lessons seem pretty useful. I'd love to learn the main 1000. I think I actually signed up for a website to start learning that shit.
And you can do through the local library here. You can do Linda. NDA. So they might have something like that.
Another service available to library card holders, Linda, a resource for learning things. Learned some things in quarantine. I learned how to do a Blender 3D modeling. I'm not very good at it. But
you learned it.
But I learned it. So I think that's about it. 2 interesting little movies. Definitely check out House of Hummingbird, and check out Shoot Ice tomorrow if it sounds like your bag.
I'm excited for us to get to our next films as well. And also, speaking of international cinema, our next episode of Throws It Back.
Yes, Throws It Back, our Patreon exclusive $5 and up tier show. This month I just kind of closed my eyes and threw the dart at the dartboard and picked a director, and the director that I kind of wanted to check out more stuff from was Abbas Kiarostami, who is probably the most famous Iranian director, who's responsible for a lot of really, really cool stuff. I've seen 2 of his movies, but go check our Patreon. There's a poll it might still be active. I'm not really sure, but
all the movies that he has in that are actually also available through the Criterion collection. So that's what we're going to be doing next month. And then we'll have even people who support us Patreons get to hear these episodes several days early.
Yeah, absolutely.
3 days. I don't know why I said several, as if it's a random pull of the dart when how often it goes up bad.
Right.
Yeah, about 3 days early. And you'll also get to vote on Throws It Back for our $5 and up tier. And if you're already on our Patreon and are listening to this 3 days early, thank you.
Thank you.
What's up?
Yay. Love it. But thank you so much for listening thus far. Thank you for supporting. Like, comment, subscribe.
Hit the bell notification.
Hit the notification bell to get notified when all of our stuff goes up on the YouTube. I'm Burrow.
I'm Jay Bearhat. Bye.
Bye.